Welcome back to another episode of Ask the Attorney. I'm your host, Alex Alexander with Client Focus Media. I'm super excited to bring Deborah Bowers from Pinto, Coates, Kyre, and Bowers. They're setting the standard. They can be found online at pckb-law.com. That's pckb-law.com. Welcome, Deborah. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I am short, bald, and kind of incredible. So thanks for asking. Thank you for being on the show today. We're just going to kind of jump right in. The firm itself, right? Pinto, Coates, Kyre, and Bowers. Your all's primary focus, you guys are litigators, correct?
Correct. Our primary focus is civil litigation.
Okay. So tell us, you have somewhere, you have like construction deficit litigation and that kind of stuff, insurance coverages. What would you say your primary focus of the business is? If someone was in your area and they wanted to use you, what's the primary concerns?
My primary focus is construction defect litigation and insurance coverage, where I represent policyholders as well as insurers, not in the same situation, obviously. And other partners do car wreck cases. Some of our partners do plaintiff's work. A lot of our partners do defense work, obviously not in the same cases. Do products liability defense. We do employment law. One of our partners is a very good employment lawyer. All of that, anything that involves a lawsuit that's not we don't do trust and wills, we don't do criminal, and we don't do divorce or marital cases.
Gotcha.
But any other type of civil litigation, we do it.
Excellent. So basically it kind of leads us into, the typical kind of client that you would have. So you have, you represent separately, of course, insurance companies themselves and also individuals suing insurance companies. Is that correct?
Well, we represent plaintiffs if they're injured or they have a property damage claim. We also represent insurance companies. I represent insurance companies in coverage disputes, but I can also represent policyholders in coverage disputes. And then in the construction defect litigation world, I mostly represent contractors or subcontractors who are sued. I rarely represent plaintiffs in a construction defect case, although I have.
Gotcha. So it kind of comes down to when you're looking at the case in general and you're trying to figure out the best way to, let's say, win or represent the client. What would you say your go-to or your approach is to representing clients?
Be honest with the client. Give them an honest evaluation of their claim or their defense, depending on which side you're on. Don't create unrealistic expectations on either side. And then represent that client zealously within the bounds of the ethical rules of a lawyer.
So within the realm that you work, and especially this is more geographic than anything else, what do you figure that the primary misconception would be that people feel about the law firm you have in general?
I don't think there are really any misconceptions about our law firm. I think there are sometimes misconceptions by the general public on what is achievable through a lawsuit. You don't automatically get money. On the defense side, you don't automatically win, even if you're right. Juries decide these things. Juries are unpredictable. I happen to think that juries most of the time get it right, but sometimes they don't. And you're running that risk every time you go before a jury.
Yeah, I think one of the things that some people don't understand is in jury trials, especially the preparation for the lawsuit itself, right? All the time that goes into that, the cost it takes for witnesses and all that kind of things. That there's a lot of money involved in getting this to happen. So even in some cases when there are awards that that has to be covered first, right? So there's not always this big lump of money ready to just windfall on the person that they do win, but because there is all of this output of cash to make sure that everything's set up right. Am I on target with that?
You're right. I mean, litigation is expensive. In North Carolina, we don't have a loser pays system unless there's a statutory requirement that the loser pays. So most of the time, even if you win, you're still going to have to pay your attorney out of those proceeds. And it is expensive. It's very expensive. Not just for the attorney's fees, but for the deposition costs, the exhibit costs, the expert costs. In a construction defect case, you always have lots of experts. Even in a personal injury case, you have experts. You have medical experts. You have life care plan experts. Those folks charge a lot. They charge more than the lawyers do.
Well, you're both experts in your field, right? And of course, you have to be compensated. They have to be compensated because they're taking their time to do that. So it all kind of makes sense. I mean, sometimes it may be a little much, but it is what it is, right? This is all part of setting up, whether it be defense or plaintiff work. It's all part of setting it up and getting it done properly. So I thank you very much for kind of showing us how that worked and what you guys do. If there's anything you could say to somebody that is coming into they're going into law school, or they're thinking about going to law school, or they're just about to graduate, is there any pearl of wisdom that you'd like to impart to those people?
Be prepared to work long hours. Law is based on human capital. And most of the time you are billing your hours and you're putting in a lot of time. So it's not a career where you're going to be able to put in a few hours a week and reap great benefits, because your compensation is going to be tied to how much the time that you're willing to put in. And it requires a lot of time. It requires a lot of brain power and just physically being there doing the work. Lawyers work as hard as anybody else.
I want to thank you for, number one, explaining it, but also putting in the time it takes. So obviously you've been doing this for a while. Your firm is well recognized. So this is something that you have put in the work. So thank you very much. And I want to thank everyone out there for tuning into this episode of Ask the Attorney. If you'd like to learn more about Deborah Bowers from Pinto, Cates, Kyre, and Bowers, you can, of course, go to pckb-law.com, but also right here at iwanttabuzz.com. Do something good for yourself and do something good for others.